For the first time in several weeks, the West Virginia Mountaineers are actually favored in a football game. And in this episode of the Golden Blue Breakdown Show, which is episode number 50, I believe, Jonathan,
Yep.
we are going to preview the upcoming contest between the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Colorado Buffaloes. Coach Prime and his unit are coming to Morgantown to take on the Mountaineers, and we're going to talk about it. So pull up a chair and listen and enjoy the show. Jonathan, what's up, man?
Because we're having fun, right? I mean, we are having fun. You know, we kind of joked a little bit, I guess, maybe at the tail end of last week, how, one of these days we're going to do this show, and it just happens to be episode 50, and we're having fun. This feels good, right?
It does
like
feel
that.
Good. It's a lot better than the last several weeks.
It is a lot better, and I could even tell a little bit more pep in my step, I guess, as just kind of preparing for this show, and so. Yeah, this feels good, and you got another opportunity this week in a game that I think West Virginia can win. We'll talk about that, and maybe kind of keep this rolling a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. It's good when I'm doing my prep and I'm looking at over stats, and West Virginia isn't drastically behind the opponent in every category.
That always helps. They kind of somehow those numbers and the win column go hand in hand a little bit. So. Yeah, great week last week, and hopeful to keep the momentum going against Colorado.
Yep. For those of you who don't know, the game is this Saturday, November 8th. It is in Morgantown inside Milan Puskar Stadium. It kicks off at 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. It will air on TNT and HBO Max. So another game which fans seem to like. On TNT, HBO Max. Fans seem to like that setup. So those TNT folks do a great job with the production. So hopefully it'll be a good viewing experience for Mountaineer fans.
Yeah, and military appreciation. And
yes.
I found that out tonight. So I think I can speak for both of us when I say we appreciate our men and women in the military. And so for the special occasion for this tonight, I broke out the sweatshirt. So glad
good job. I'm pretty confident I don't own anything with camo on it, so I'm kind of out. But I guess I could have worn something patriotic. That would have.
Or maybe got a little eye black and kind of roughed your face up a little bit, or
that would have worked too.
Something like that. But so it's going to be a great weekend to get out to the stadium and support the team.
Yep. You want to talk a little bit about like we normally do, kind of a quick bow, I guess, put a bow on the last game, wrap it up, whatever you want to call it. The win, West Virginia gets a big win over Houston. Let's get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I tell you, it was just kind of one of those where it just all kind of came together. I think you could go a couple directions with it. One, I feel like this team is starting to find their identity a little bit behind Scotty Fox. I think the game is slowing down for him a little bit. I think he's obviously getting better every week, but does it not kind of feel like that the team is kind of rallying around him a little bit too? And it's kind of strange to have that leader of this team as a true freshman, but it kind of appears that way. And so that was nice to see. It was just kind of like every time you thought Houston was going to sneak in and get back into the game, West Virginia just kind of hit the gas a little bit more, and so that was nice to see. And I think just my overall thought on it was, and we talked about this last week, and actually we've talked about it several times. Really going back to the TCU game, it was clear, and it was nice to see that this team hasn't just mailed it in. And to get that type of effort out of that team, all things considered, how the season has went, it proved to me why Rich Rodriguez, and I said this on social media and I'll say it again, if you saw the video of Rich Rodriguez talking to the team after the win and talked about this is West Virginia football, did you notice that everybody was locked in?
Yep.
Nobody's heads were down. Nobody was looking to the side. because they finished his sentences
Yep.
almost. And for the season and for the record, it was just nice to get one. That's the obvious. But it was nice to see that effort and that hard edge. And so if you're West Virginia, don't get crazy. We're maybe talking bowl game, possibly.
Long
And
shot, but
so
it's possible, but it's
a
out there.
long shot, but it's out there. And so you at least have something you're continuing to play for now, right? And so, gosh darn it was just good to get one.
It was good to get one, and prevented them from having the worst record in program history, by the way,
Yep.
or worst winning percentage anyway.
Yep.
They've had 2-win seasons, but they played less games then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at least in modern era anyway. Let's say it that. I'm sure there have been some worse if you go back to the 1800s, but we won't go back that far. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they pretty much heard my spiel on it. Just a huge win. Scotty Fox. I even heard one of the players say in his weekly presser. I don't remember who it was. Unfortunately, my brain's not working there, but made a comment like he's been my guy from day one or something along those lines, and that kind of perked my ears up, thinking,
Yeah.
he really has gotten the respect of this team
Yeah.
since the beginning, right? Since he got there in January, I believe. So, and Coach Rod talked about how he is already acting like a veteran. Like Coach Rod was trying to get on him and explain to him how to do the kneel down at the end of the game, and Scotty was like, "Coach, relax, we got this."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and Coach Rod loved that because he's like, "This is a guy who's talking to me like seniors normally talk to me,"
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I think, like
I
you
think
said,
that's a great sign.
yeah, and I think, as you said, he it's really been that way from the beginning of the year. But I think really where Scotty and this team kind of hit that stride was against TCU, even when he was a little banged up, and he never asked to come out. He just continued to stay in against TCU and play, and it was clear in that game he was hurt, he was limping, but he continued to stay in, and those are the things that the players, when you're struggling, because those are the things that can be rallying cries to some of these players. And then I just looked into last week, and gosh, we could talk forever about a win, right? It's like when you're losing, you're trying to find time to ways to fill an hour, and when you
Yeah.
win, you can just go on. And I would even just talk about, how about Donovan Haslam, offensive line? As much as we've beaten them up, not only did the line as a unit perform, but how about him pretty much carrying Dior Hubbard,
Mhm.
4 or 5 yards? Because those are things that you feel like you get out of teams that have won 7 or 8 games so far at this point in the season. Not teams that are struggling. And it was good to see that he still had command of the players in the locker room, and there was still some fight in them. And those are the things that really get you excited about the next week. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Probably you will too. But it's important to carry that over into this week.
Yep. Agreed. All right, let's go ahead and jump in and start off. For those who might be watching for the first time, we do a 3-2-1. With 3 keys of the game for the Mountaineers, 2 position battles to watch for them to be successful, and then 1 key West Virginia player that needs to step up for the Mountaineers. And then at the end, we give our score predictions. By the way, for those who aren't aware, last I checked, West Virginia was favored by 6.5 over at DraftKings with an over-under of 54.5. Of course, that we all know that can change at any time, but that's where it was upon recording the show. All right, what's your first key to this game, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm just going to go right off of kind of how I led into it, and that is, is continuing the momentum is a huge key. You're back at home. Because as fun as that was, you cannot follow up a win at Houston with a loss at home to Colorado. And I actually printed off, if I can read it, I printed off a quote from Rich Rodriguez from this week. And it says, quote, "Most of the year, everybody's like, what's wrong with you? You guys are terrible. You stink."
Yeah.
Maybe this week they're getting what Coach Saban calls rat poison,
Yep.
because everybody's telling them how great they are. Hell, we won 1 game on the road, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not like we've put a 10-game winning streak and can play better, so we better realize that.
Yeah.
Um, that screams of a coach who is not satisfied with going on the road and beating a ranked team.
Correct.
There's unfinished business. And it also kind of semi-screams, I better get your attention.
Yep.
Because you're really not that good. You can be, right? But you're not. And so because if there was ever a team West Virginia wanted to play this week, it seems like it would be Colorado, right? They're reeling about as bad as West Virginia was prior to last week because they are coming off of 2 losses where they gave up a 50 spot to Utah and to Arizona.
Yep.
2 weeks ago, the loss to Utah, was Deion Sanders' worst loss in his career. And then last week against Arizona was his worst home loss in his career. Now, that's when you want to pounce on a Colorado football team. And if there was ever time to do it and carry some momentum over, I think it would be this week. So you just can't follow up a win at Houston with a loss to Colorado at home. And so I'm anxious to see, as we have both mentioned throughout this entire season, I'm anxious to see which team comes out and how this team looks this week. You just can't go backwards.
Correct. That's actually a good segue into mine, and it's the way I wrote it down was be prepared for Julian Lewis because he's the true freshman who's been named the starting quarterback. But I'm going to expand on that and say be prepared for changes at Colorado.
Yeah.
Because there are reports coming out now, and Deion hinted at this in his press conference this week. They have made changes behind the scenes. It looks like they have demoted, based on reports. Deion didn't say this. He didn't want to openly speak about the changes, but the reports are saying that they have demoted Pat Shurmur from offensive coordinator and have promoted their tight end coach to offensive coordinator. Now, did that happen before last week's game or before? I have no idea.
Yeah.
When they made the change. If somebody knows, obviously let us know in the comments section. I've reached out to a couple Colorado people I know, and they haven't responded yet. But my concern there is what you have on film, depending on when they made these changes, and even if they have made them, what you've seen on film may not be what you see this week. If you have a different person calling the plays, and with Julian Lewis, he has played a little bit this year, but not a lot. For those who don't know, he was a 4-star recruit, I think 5-star by some outlets. As a true freshman, he's 11 for 21 passing, 129 yards and a touchdown. I think he did play some in that Arizona game last week. Not a huge sample size to really judge him by, but so what are you going to get with him? Most of your film is on Caden Salter. So what's out there for, how do you prepare for a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator who, you may not know what he's going to call. So the coaching staff has to be prepared to make adjustments in games. Zach Alley's going to have to, which I have no doubt he will be. I know he's very detail oriented, but be prepared for any and all things to be thrown at you. And there's a lot of similarities, Jonathan. When I heard Coach Prime's press conference, I heard some similar things that Coach Rod has said in his press conference earlier in the year when his team was struggling. He was talking about how they're still practicing well. They've not given up. We heard some of the same things, right?
Yeah.
So it got me thinking. Could we see a Colorado team come out that we saw earlier in the year, like the one who barely lost to Georgia Tech, or the one who beat Iowa State 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Or 4 weeks ago, whenever that was. If he gets these guys motivated and flips a switch, just like Coach Rod did last week at Houston, we could get a different Colorado team this Saturday. So they better be ready, like back to what you were saying.
Yeah.
Keep your foot on the gas. Keep the same mindset. Keep focused, because you haven't arrived yet, and you can still very easily lose this football game. So you've got to show up with the right mindset and be prepared for anything.
Yeah, I agree. And you have to ask yourself, because after back-to-back losses, and I'm talking bad losses to Utah and to Arizona, the flip side of that is how excited is Colorado to make the trip across country to West Virginia. And so to me, at the end of the day, even though West Virginia had a huge win last week, it's a matter of which one of these teams kind of comes prepared to play, or and I think they kind of go hand in hand, right? Is which team's more excited to play? And so you kind of touched on it, and so I'll just kind of go into my second point of key to the game is the curious case of Julian Lewis.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. Most people don't know, but our viewers here will know the quarterback carousel that West Virginia has went through before finally Scotty Fox appears to have worked out. Is that Colorado has kind of done the same thing. This is going to be their third starting quarterback this year, and I think the fourth quarterback to actually play. And I don't know if you happen to catch this or not, but when Deion Sanders was asked, why did you go to Julian Lewis? Do you know what he said?
Common sense.
Common sense. So that's a couple things. One, it's Deion being Deion, right?
Yeah.
Or it's just he's just not happy. Earlier in the year, Salter was benched for all of one game, and I think it was a quarterback by the name of Ryan Staub, if I'm pronouncing that last name right. He came in and played one game, and that was pretty much didn't work, and they went right back to Salter. Curious as to why they didn't go to Lewis at that point in time. Maybe still trying to ride the wave of we've got something to play for. But then last week, Salter didn't play very well against Arizona, and insert Lewis. It wasn't much better. I think he did have one fairly long pass play for a touchdown. But I think it's important for the viewers of our show to know a little bit about Lewis, because I don't know that they really do. Because this is somebody that should be a senior in high school. You talk about staggering numbers, because he threw for over 11,000 yards in 3 years. That's impressive. He was committed to USC, decommitted, and then committed to Colorado. Here's a fun fact for you. Committed to Colorado live on the Pat McAfee show.
I remember that now. Actually, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. So actually went on Pat McAfee's show to do his commitment. ESPN actually rated him, I believe, a 5-star. They had him the number 3 pocket passer. I think it was the number 12 overall player. But whether it was On3 or /Rivals or 247 or ESPN, it was 4 or 5-star. The point is, Julian Lewis was rated extremely high coming out of high school and should be a senior in high school. So he's raw. But the curious case of what are you going to get? And to your point, it's not necessarily just him as a quarterback, which was my second point, but just the entire team. And Zach Alley and this staff has to be prepared in what limited. I mean, listen, Lewis has thrown 21 passes all season, Coos. Yep. So there's not a ton to go off of. If you're going to prepare for maybe the same philosophy, you can get a little bit of an idea about Salter. But for all we know, Deion is kind of throwing this curveball in that, you still might see a little bit of Salter. So who knows? But we'll just be curious to see how this is played schematically, because there's just not a lot of film to go on.
Yeah, and they're not going to have time to go out and completely change the offense in a week, right?
Right.
But they could add some wrinkles in, So so it'll be interesting. Things that might fit this quarterback strength, Lewis's strengths that didn't fit Salter's strengths, and or maybe something this offensive coordinator sees that the other one didn't want to call, whatever.
Right.
So you've got to be ready for that. It's funny how our stuff's tying together so well already.
Yeah,
We're just now getting started.
Usually does.
My second key, take care of the football. I know that's Captain Obvious, but in this game, man, West Virginia, they're kind of due for a turnover. I hate to say that, but they haven't turned it over in 2 games.
Yeah.
You got a true freshman quarterback who's probably going to throw a pick at some point, right? Hopefully it's not this game.
Yeah.
But the reason I say you take care of the football is because if you do that, I mean, Colorado has been a turnover plagued program, man. I mean, they had 5 turnovers in the last game against Arizona, I think it was. A few games before that, they turned it over 4 times. I mean, they are a -6 in turnover margin on the year. 116th in the country out of 136 teams, I believe. So they're turning it over at a high clip, which means you don't want to do that too. Because if you do that too, and you play on their level on the turnover game, that doesn't give you that's one less advantage you have, right? So don't stoop to their level, as I like to say, or play down to their level, however you want to word it. Do not do that, because as long as you can continue to take care of the football, they will probably cough it up a time or two or three, especially with this Mountaineer defense that likes to force turnovers.
Yeah.
West Virginia, I had it wrote down here, is actually 37th in the country in turnover margin. So they're actually, in the top half or our top third really of the country in turnover margin, whereas Colorado's in the bottom third. So completely opposite ends of the spectrum there. So if West Virginia can force a few turnovers and also take care of the ball, they theoretically should win the football game. But again, if your defense forces turnovers, you can't give it right back to them, especially a team like Colorado. You don't want to match them turnover for turnover, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's something West Virginia has done better of lately, especially last couple of weeks, and specifically last week. Really good not turning the ball over and forcing turnovers. And so, again, another opportunity. I think this week it's a matchup that kind of fits if West Virginia can keep that trend, kind of keep them in line. And I don't think it obviously goes hand in hand that West Virginia has played well in forcing turnovers and has limited their mistakes. And it just so happens to tie along with the last 2 weeks of probably their best football of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So completely agree with you. Yeah.
Yep. All right. What's number 3 for you?
Yeah, number 3 is I'll say it's part of number. It actually is number 3. But if Rich Rodriguez and his staff, who's can't get to the players and what they're telling them doesn't translate, maybe we should speak to them, because last week one of our keys was you have to find an identity running the football. And we talked about it over and over and over and over last week. And I don't know, maybe Rich should bring us in to talk to the team. I don't know. Because you and I beat that drum pretty hard last week. And all they did was go out and run for 246 yards against Houston last week. So, Rich, if you're watching, we would be more than happy to come in and talk to the guys if you need us to, because it obviously worked. All joking aside, it is continue to run the football. And I don't say that just because it's obvious, Coos, but when I started to go through the numbers, out of 134 FBS teams, Colorado ranks 132nd in rush defense. They have struggled giving up the run all season long. So listen to these, Coos. They give up 5.28 yards per rush. Colorado has given up 25 touchdowns on the ground this year and 215 rushing yards per game this season. And if that's not crazy enough, because against Iowa State earlier this year, 236 yards they gave up on the ground. Against Houston early in the year, 209 yards on the ground. Last week against Arizona, 204 yards on the ground. And you want to know one that's really crazy? Against Utah, do you happen to know how many rushing yards they gave up against Utah 2 weeks ago? 422. And just to be clear, that's not a mistake. I didn't stutter.
No, it's not, because I looked at the exact same numbers you looked at. So
if you're West Virginia, I'm saying this not because it's stating the obvious, but these are eye-popping numbers.
Yeah.
Eye-popping numbers. In fact, they gave up against Utah. Man, I think there were two players for Utah that almost ran for 200 yards. And so if you're West Virginia coming off of a 246-yard week last week, and Sincere Bowers was able to break a couple, which we've been looking for all season, and Dior Hubbard ran the ball extremely efficient, this is an opportunity, and even for Scotty Fox, this is an opportunity for West Virginia to establish themselves on the ground and be able to run the football.
Well, I'm just going to leave and let you do the rest of the show.
You good with that? It was so obvious.
You good with that? Because I basically got the exact same thing wrote down on my paper.
Well,
so I don't even need to talk no more, but I will, just because I like to
422 yards rushing against Colorado Cougars.
I'm going to give you one more stat to add on to that, because that's also my third key too, is run the ball. because if you don't, you suck at running the ball. If you can't run the ball unless I shouldn't say that because Colorado, they could step up and play well this game. You don't know,
Sure.
but assuming they
And let's
continue the
not
trend
pretend.
they're on. Okay,
And,
here's
and
one
let's
more.
not pretend real quick because let me just say, let's not pretend that West Virginia has been really, really good on the ground all season either.
Great, yeah,
Now
great point.
West Virginia
Their
is
yards per attempt is not very good.
correct. So either West Virginia is the team that we have seen previously, or they're the team that ran for 246 last week. That remains to be seen.
Correct. The last 3 games, of course, the Utah game's in here. That's why this number is so out of whack. The last 3 games, Jonathan, they are. Let me find that stat here. Okay, here it is. You said they're giving up 216 a game on the ground, right?
Yep.
Last 3 games, it's 287 yards on the ground, which is 135th out of 136 teams in the country.
Yeah, trending in the wrong direction.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you look, it's funny. I'm glad you said that because when you look at the stats when you look at the overall stats of these 2 teams throughout the entire season up to this point, they're actually pretty close in a lot of them nationally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Both of them are pretty bad in a lot of categories nationally. But here's the difference. West Virginia is trending upwards. Colorado is going the opposite direction. That's the difference here. Now, if this were the same Colorado team that was, that played Georgia Tech close, that won a couple games early in the year, we'd be having a different conversation today, right? And the Vegas spread wouldn't be 6.5 in favor of the Mountaineers. It would probably be 3 or maybe even a slight favorite to the Buffaloes, right? But it's not because what you mentioned earlier. They've given up a 50-piece 2 weeks in a row. They cannot stop the run right now. They're struggling in a lot of areas, and so if West Virginia, if they can do what they did last week against Houston, who is a much better defensive front, at least up to this point, they could theoretically dominate the football game and win by a lot more than a touchdown. Now, will they do it is yet to be determined, obviously, but they should be able to if they can do anything that resembles what they did. And by the way, and I'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but almost any stat that you want to mention for Colorado is even worse when they play on the road.
Yeah.
All 3 of their wins are at home. They're just not a good road football team. So I'll throw that in too. But and that includes their rushing numbers, or defensive rushing numbers. So my third keys is yours. Run the ball.
Yeah.
You got to establish a run.
I think you're going to see a lot of West Virginia running the football,
and which I ain't gonna get too far ahead of myself, but their pass defense is not near as bad as their run defense either.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
All right, let's go ahead and move along to our second topic, which are 2 position battles. Before we do, though, I want to give a shout out to the folks who make this possible and our website possible. That's the folks over at Appalachia Digital. You see in my background, I've got a logo for WV Sports Chat. If you can see it, that is the website that Jonathan and I are partners on. It was designed by the folks at Appalachia Digital. It's where you get your West Virginia Mountaineer written content. Every day you can get it right in your inbox if you sign up for our daily newsletter. Or you can just go to wvsportschat.com, or you can type in couguscorner.com too, and it'll take you to the same site, by the way. But Appalachia Digital designed it. They did a great job. They're professionals at it. They can do the same for you if you want a website, whether you're running a small business, wanting to start your own blog, whatever. Go to appalachiadigital.com/Cougs. Let them know I sent you, and they will take care of you. They'll get you a really good website. Or if you already have a site, you can improve the one you got. They'll help you do that too. So go to appalachiadigital.com/Cougs. Now let's go ahead and go to the position battles to watch.
Yeah.
What's first one?
Yeah, Coos, for me, I think, and when I started diving into some of the numbers for Colorado, one thing that jumped out at me was I think it's a really key matchup is going to be the West Virginia secondary versus Colorado wide receiver Omarion Miller. And I want to be clear, the numbers, while good, Miller's numbers don't scream fearful. 28 catches, 521 yards. Good numbers, but they're not eye-popping numbers. But because when I started looking, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I actually wrote them down because there was a lot. West Virginia has given up a lot of catches and a lot of yards in almost every single game this season to a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually
that's a good point.
It's borderline mind-boggling. So if you deduct Robert Morris, and surprisingly, if you deduct Kansas, okay, Ohio wide receiver Chase Hendricks had 8 catches for 121. Pitt's Raphael Williams Jr. had 6 catches for 119. Utah receiver Ryan Davis had 7 for 107. BYU had 2 receivers, Chase Roberts 4 for 161 and Parker Kingston 4 for 111. UCF Chris Domerkamp 5 for 89. TCU's Eric McAllister 9 for 124, and then Houston receiver Amari Thomas last week, who's 10 for 99.
Yeah.
So seemingly in every single game this year, a wide receiver has, quite honestly, lit this West Virginia secondary up. And so with a new quarterback, with an inexperienced quarterback, with a young quarterback, with a raw quarterback, insert anything you want to add about Julian Lewis this week for Colorado, you have to take away a target that you have given up big plays, big catches all season long. And Omarion Miller is a talented receiver, but he is not someone that you should allow 161 yards, 121, 124, 119. And I'm afraid that if that connection from, to Miller, which you already saw last week against Arizona, they connected on a long touchdown pass. If you're West Virginia secondary, you have to eliminate options for him, and you cannot continue the trend of giving up a lot of catches and a lot of yards to an opposing wide receiver. That has to be eliminated because West Virginia's been pretty effective against the run, and I think that's an area where West Virginia can exploit Colorado a little bit, and so you just have to take away a big key target and just can't get beat with that amount of catches and that amount of yards.
I like it. I love the specificity there. I kind of noticed West Virginia giving up a ton of yards and catches, but I never dug deep into, game by game. I just kind of had it, in my memory bank. I was like, man, another guy with 100 yards receiving. Good.
Yeah, and it seems like every week because we're watching it, and you're kind of like, man, again.
Yeah.
But you never. When I went back to, and I went back a week, I'm like, oh, okay, and then went back another week, like, oh, okay, and then he just kind of keeps climbing the ladder, and this is a habitual problem for this defense, and ironically enough, West Virginia's a little bit. They're too good in the secondary to allow that to happen. And so if West Virginia can shore that up, it's an opportunity for them to really get aggressive on defense.
Yeah, it's actually kind of mind-boggling because they have individual guys back there who have performed well, but as a unit, it's I don't know if it's I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it, and obviously without knowing the schemes and where guys are supposed to be on each play, it's hard to really.
Yeah.
But I mean, Chambers has played well for the most part this year. Coates has played well for the most part this year. So maybe the safeties are struggling. I don't know. I'm just speculating now, but it's a great point. Great point. I'm going to start off with the West Virginia defensive line against the Colorado offensive line. Okay. Let's start off and how they can affect the pass game. We've mentioned Julian Lewis multiple times. He's a freshman, very little experience. He's not passing the ball past 10 yards very often. I mean, he's only thrown it 21 times. 14 of those are within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, averaging 6.1 yards per attempt. Okay. But he's not getting sacked a lot either. And he's holding on to the ball for over 3 seconds per play on passes, which tells you what? He's either getting really good protection or he's doing a good job of moving around. And when you look at their pass blocking grades, they're actually pretty darn good. They are 74.2 on the season. So that tells me they're doing a pretty good job in pass blocking. And they've got one of the best offensive tackles in the country, by the way, in Jordan Seaton, whose pass blocking grades are really good as well. But on the road this year, in road games, again, I mentioned road games, they're giving up 4 sacks a game on the road, which is kind of uncanny because overall their pass defense has not been bad. I mentioned the pass blocking. But yet they give up 4 sacks in road games. So it's those two kind of don't jive with each other, right? It's kind of odd.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you can get pressure on Julian Lewis and rattle him, which they have tendency to do if they're giving up those pressures on the road. If you can get to him and rattle him, and I think the crowd could be a factor here as well.
Yeah.
Get to him and rattle him. He will make mistakes. His completion percentage when blitzed, 38.5%. And he's been blitzed a lot. 13 of his 21 attempts, he's been blitzed. And on those throws, he's 38.5% completion percentage. So if you can get pressure on him with that defensive line, and of course, the linebackers come into play there as well, and your safeties when you talk about blitzing. But bottom line is your defensive line is going to be a big part of this. And then when it comes to stopping the run, Colorado is not great at running the football. So if you can stop their run game, which West Virginia has done a great job of the last 2 weeks, if you can continue that trend, make them one-dimensional with a freshman quarterback who doesn't throw well when pressured, I think it's a recipe for success.
Kuz, would you agree with me that maybe outside of Scotty Fox, that the West Virginia defensive line specifically over the last 2 weeks has probably been the most impressive unit?
I could second that.
And we
if
probably
you want to
could
look at it as a unit, yes, I will say I will
right.
second that.
And I think we could point to a couple things, right? Obviously the running game last week, the offensive line showed a lot of improvement. I'm talking about, let's go back to before the kickoff against TCU, and it was kind of like, I mentioned earlier the curious case of Julian Lewis. You could probably insert the West Virginia defensive line. It was like there was no sacks, there was no pressure. Jamori Robinson just kind of went absent. And then it was like all of a sudden against TCU, there was a little bit of momentum built there, right? And they were just getting it. They weren't getting it just from one or two guys. They were going pretty deep into the depth chart in terms of production. And then last week it carried over. And we talked on this show last week about, Jamori Robinson, like Rich Rodriguez and Zach Alley called him out, and he was extremely impressive last week. They were an aggressive unit last week. And so, I think when you and I just go from position to position or battle to battle or whatever in this football game, it's just another reason why West Virginia has an opportunity this week to feel even more better about themselves, right? Because this is an opportunity for West Virginia. And I don't think Julian Lewis has the potential to be a really good quarterback.
Oh, he's extremely talented, yeah.
But I don't think right now, he's quite there. We talked earlier about how he's supposed to be a senior in high school. I don't know that he's quite there yet. And it's another opportunity for West Virginia to be really aggressive. And so I completely agree with you. And I think you have to feel pretty good if you're West Virginia about the last 2 weeks that this defensive line has performed, that this is another opportunity for them to be aggressive and perform well this weekend.
And let me. I meant to add a stat to I said Colorado don't run it well. Let me put some numbers to that. I got so much many notes wrote down here, man. I'm having a hard time keeping up. Look at that. It's insane. And that's just one out of I got like 4 pieces of paper like that. They're only running for 130 yards a game, which is 90th in the country. Okay.
Yeah.
The last 3 games, two of those which they've gotten pummeled. One game they actually won in there. They're only rushing for 102 yards a game. Okay, huge drop off. Would you like to take a guess what they're on the road? What their number per game is?
Oh, I don't know.
87.
Well,
again, it's just another example of when they're on the road, they struggle.
Yeah.
Even more so than they do at home. So the home field advantage should be huge this week for the Mountaineers. But I wanted to throw that stat in and talk about why the defensive line at West Virginia, if they continue to play well, they should be able to shut down this Colorado run game. Again, make them one-dimensional. Then you can years back and go after that freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
And if you get ahead, make them have to throw the football. It could be a fun day. But anyway, what's your second position battle to watch?
Yeah, so I kind of will segue actually from what you said. I've always tried to get a little different with these and just a little twist a little bit. So how about Rich Rodriguez versus Deion Sanders?
I like it.
And we've kind of talked about this a little bit, and you just talked to. I was going to start with West Virginia, but because you ended there with Colorado, because they do not play very good on the road. I mean, they've had their struggles, and there's no need for me to kind of beat this horse because you just did it really well. But Colorado's a 3-6 football team and 1-12 in the conference, so they're struggling, obviously, but they're really struggling on the road. So you've got struggling on the road. You've
Wait a
got
minute, they played more games in the conference than they have overall?
I'm 1-5 in the conference. Yeah,
You
yeah.
said 1-12.
Oh, 1-5, 1-5.
Sorry, I couldn't pass up that opportunity.
Yeah,
Keep
1-5.
rolling, man. I knew
So
what you meant.
So, well, it could seem like for Colorado they've played that many games. It's been that
For
long
the
of a
fans, it
season.
probably feels that way.
Yeah, and up until last week, we kind of know the
We
same
knew the
feeling.
feeling, man. Yep.
So, so they're struggling. You've got a quarterback. I wouldn't call it controversy, but you're looking for something. You discussed earlier. Is there staff changes? Is there not staff changes? And so, how excited can Deion get his team to come all the way to Morgantown, West Virginia, and play a football game? By the same token, again, let's not pretend. Listen, last week was great for West Virginia, and I think everybody hopes that feeling continues for a very long time. But West Virginia is also a 3-6 football team, 1-5 in the conference, and they haven't won a home football game. Coos, you got to go all the way back to the backyard brawl,
Yeah.
and so is West Virginia, are they going to be able to continue that momentum that they had last week, or is it going to be kind of back to the UCF, the BYU's, the Utahs, the Kansases? Which team, right? And so, which coach can take their 3-6/1-5 football team and get them ready to play in Morgantown, West Virginia this weekend? And whichever coach can get their team prepared to play, I think comes out on top. And you can probably listen, both of these teams have things that they can hang their hat on. Both of them have things that they probably wish they could just do over. And so, whichever coach can rally their troops and get them ready to play, I think probably comes out on top.
I like the creativity there, buddy. I like it. With me, I'm going with the West Virginia, my second position battle, the West Virginia wide receivers versus Colorado's secondary.
Yeah.
Now we established that West Virginia should be able to run the football in this game, but you can't run it all the time, right? And I mentioned that Colorado is better in the pass game or pass defense game, right? Now I'm trying to wrap my head around this, Jonathan. And this is where PFF grades are probably not the end all be all, right? Their coverage grade, their pass coverage grade on the year is a 52. That's terrible,
Yeah.
right? Worse than West Virginia's. So you think, man, they should have a field day. However, when you look at the hard numbers, you look at their opponent completion percentage is I've got it wrote down here is hold on, I got to find it. Bear with me. It's 12th in the country in opponent completion percentage. So that doesn't jive with the PFF grade. So which I don't know. I can't. Somebody explain that to me in the comment section.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Right. They're 47th in the country in opponent passing yards per game, which is top 50. It's not bad. So their secondary appears to be the strongest part of their defense, at least statistically, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, will you be able to do anything in the pass game? Will that secondary be able to shut down West Virginia's pass game? Because you can't be – look, I know West Virginia wants to run the ball 65% of the time, but you've got to throw the ball a little bit, right? Scotty Fox has got arm talent for days. They want to take advantage of that. They like to try to hit Cam Vaughn down the field. Can he and Cam Vaughn or he and Jeff Weimer make some plays like they had the last couple of weeks?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see against this Colorado secondary, who apparently doesn't cover very well, but yet they're limiting their opponents in completion percentage. So I don't really understand that whole dynamic there, but they are statistically much better at shutting down the pass than they are the run. So it'll be interesting to watch the matchup between West Virginia's receivers and Colorado's secondary.
Yeah, and as much fun as winning last week was, and as much fun as scoring 45 points was, I feel like you need to get more than one catch out of Cam Vaughn, right? And so I think we both agree that West Virginia is going to run the football. But you also have to open up. I mean, Scotty Fox only completed 13 passes last week, Coos. And so and only one of those was to Cam Vaughn. So just feel like you're going to have to establish that a little bit more, even though, you would sign up right now, I think, for 246 rushing yards again this week. But I think you've got to be able to establish that pass game as well. And I think that Colorado is going to know that West Virginia is going to try and exploit that. And so there is going to be an opportunity, especially downfield. So completely agree with you that I think West Virginia is going to have to be a little active there.
I found the numbers I was looking for earlier. They are 12th in the country. I was right on that. These numbers are just head-scratching to me because they don't jive with the PFF grades. But anyway, they're 55.56% opponent completion percentage, right? So less than 60% on the year, 12th in the country. The last 3 games, 2 of which they've been blown out in, it's actually 48.19% that they're giving up in the pass game.
Wow.
Now, Utah ran for over 400 yards, so they didn't have to pass the football, right? So that there's a caveat there, right?
True.
But again, back to the road game thing. In road games, they're giving up almost 60% completion percentage. So those are the numbers. Take them for what they're worth. But I wanted to throw that out there. I thought it was it's just interesting to me how these numbers move around based on home versus away, last 3 games versus the season. And it just shows you the trend for the most part. Most of these numbers, outside of a couple outliers, for the most part, shows you the trend of this Colorado team. They've been terrible the last 3 weeks for the most part, and they're terrible on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree.
We could just end it there, couldn't we? But
we could.
But anyway, all right, let's keep rolling, man. We got one key player to talk about. Who's your one key player to watch for West Virginia?
Because I'm going to cheat a little bit here. And I'm actually going to go with a unit instead of a player. And that's cheating, I know. But you know what? You and I make the rules. We can break them. How about the West Virginia tight ends? And here's what I mean by that. We've spent a lot of time this show talking about West Virginia running the football, and we believe that is obviously going to be a major factor in this game this weekend. But do you want to know one of the reasons why West Virginia was so successful? And it was the offensive line, but one of the reasons why West Virginia was so successful running the football last week was the tight ends. Did you see the blocks?
I did.
That Grayson Barnes had. I mean, if that didn't get you fired up early in the game, Ryan Ward pulled out and had some great helmet blocks. I mean, Jacob Barrick was really good last week.
Yep.
That tight end unit was right side by side with the West Virginia offensive line in production in terms of running last week. And so if we think West Virginia is going to have it, would have been easy to pick Hubbard again and Scotty Fox, and that would have been completely understandable. But kind of the group that gets lost in the shuffle a little bit about West Virginia's production last week was that tight end unit, and at different times during the game there were 3 of those guys. I actually think that that unit's going to be challenged again this week. And if West Virginia is successful, like we think they will and they need to be, I think that tight end unit will have a large part in that. And so I'm going to throw some love to the West Virginia tight ends this week. I'm going to do a 3-for-1.
Yeah.
How about that?
I like it. Just to put some numbers to your blocking, Ryan Ward had a overall grade of 79.8 in that game.
Yeah.
I think that might be the highest on the team. Highest PFF grade on the entire team was Ryan Ward.
He was so good.
73.9 run blocking, 67.7 pass blocking. So a little bit of a drop off, but still above average.
Yeah.
Right? And he's a redshirt freshman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Again, another young player that had a big game last week. Dior Hubbard, Scotty Fox, Ryan Ward, just to name three. Donovan Haslam will potentially be back next year. A lot of guys on that team last week, Jonathan, were big factors in that win. Guys who could be back again next year.
Yeah.
Landon Livingston had a good day. One of his best games of the year.
Yeah.
Nick Cray had a good game. Top three highest pass blocking grades were Donovan Haslam, Landon Livingston, and Nick Cray. And Grayson Barnes and Ryan Ward are next.
Yeah. Grayson Barnes set the tone very early last week when he pulled out and put a hat on a hat and laid a defender pretty much out to open a hole early in the game. I just felt like that unit really established themselves last week and were a major part of that success on the ground. And so if they're going to do it again this week, and we think they will and they need to, I think that unit needs to perform well again this week.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm glad you said that because I had noticed I actually misspoke in an earlier show this week. I don't remember which show. I think it was the one I did with the Beard. But I said it was Jacob Barrick, and it was actually Ryan Ward that had the high grade. So I actually misspoke there. But anyway, no big deal. Mine, I'm kind of tying into my West Virginia defensive line conversation here. And you got a freshman quarterback. You've got who has very little experience, who struggles when he's blitzed.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? You want to bring the heat. Who you want to bring the heat? A guy whose name we finally got to mention last week or heard his name called last week, Jamori Robinson. Has the switch finally flipped for him now? Okay. Can he build off last week's performance? Can he make some noise and can he get after Julian Lewis, get himself another sack or two, get himself another fumble recovery or forced fumble, get him another TFL or two? It's going to be, to me, if Jamori Robinson can get some pressure, it could be a very, very good day for that West Virginia defense, in my opinion. So that he's my key player for this game. Just because I want to see him light up. I want to see him I want Julian Lewis's day to be ruined.
Yeah. You know what I like best about Jamori last week is the response from being challenged.
Yep. He was essentially benched to a degree.
He was essentially benched. Completely agree with you. And, we talked early in the show about how this football team has just responded last week, and really against TCU as well, but specifically last week when they really didn't have much of a reason to. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it would have been really easy for Jamori to complain, drop his hat, blame somebody else, heck, leave the program. I don't know. I mean, we're at the tail end of his career, and it's not win how he wanted it. He had a fight to NCAA to get on the field anyway, only for West Virginia to struggle. And when he was essentially benched and challenged by his defensive coordinator and his head coach to come back and play hard like he did last week, because that actually speaks a little bit about him himself, that he didn't just hang his head and he played the way he did. And so I fully expect Jamori to have a big Saturday this week.
Yeah.
And as you noted perfectly about putting pressure on Julian Lewis, you're going to need Jamori to be a huge, huge part of that.
Yep. And I liked how, as fans, Jonathan, sometimes we forget. We're looking at how Jamori Robinson's struggling. We're disappointed. We're talking about his NIL deals and all this stuff. But Zach Alley brought up a great point. And he was kind of defending Jamori a little bit. He was like, the guy, he couldn't play. He didn't get to participate in spring ball because he wasn't eligible yet.
Yeah.
He didn't get to participate in fall camp because he wasn't eligible yet. He didn't get to play in the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah.
He's really only been practicing with the team since the start of the season.
Yeah.
Actually, not even really then. It was a couple games in.
What was it, Kansas?
I think the Kansas games was his first real game.
I think he saw action in the backyard brawl.
Yeah.
Right?
I honestly don't remember exactly, but I was thinking it was Kansas, but it could have been the backyard brawl. Nonetheless, he missed at least 2 weeks of the season. At least.
Yes.
And wasn't even able to practice up until then. And Zach Alley said, I think if my memory serves me well, said you're talking about 3,000 snaps of practice time that he missed. And
Yeah.
I thought, holy cow. I mean, when you put a number to it like that, no wonder it took him a little bit of time. This is a new defense for him.
Yeah.
It's a new coaching staff for him, new teammates. Everything's new. We shouldn't have expected Jamoy Robinson to come out and be the defensive player of the year type player that he was last year on day one when he hadn't even got to practice with his team.
Yeah.
More than a couple weeks. So we were probably putting unrealistic expectations on him, at least for the first couple of games.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see him respond the way he did. And I'm expecting him for the rest of the season to look more like the guy we thought we were going to see.
Yeah.
When they got him. That's I hope I'm not getting my expectations too high for him, but I mean, we know the talent's there because he's shown it throughout his career. You don't get Defensive Player of the Year in the American Conference for nothing.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm looking for him to have a big game and finish the season strong the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So, and I'm excited about it. Well, I'm excited about watching it.
Yeah. Great pick. Completely agree with you. And I think that this West Virginia defensive line with Robinson and as a whole continues that upward trend about performing well.
Yep. By the way, this is a totally off topic. Did you notice on the depth chart now they have Curtis Jones listed as a nickel safety?
I did not.
I just found that interesting. Unless I'm looking at it wrong, but I know he played some of that a few weeks ago. I knew they had been moving him around to different spots, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
But for him to actually show up there on the depth chart was kind of odd to me. Doesn't mean they still can't play him at Bandit, but I just found, how about a versatile guy who can play nickel, safety, and Bandit?
Yeah.
I mean,
and running back apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Hey, who said he wasn't going to get snaps? I think we both did, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we both did. But point taken that it's nice to have somebody like him on the team.
It is. It is. All right. Score prediction time. What do you got?
Because there's no reason for me to give a whole spiel about it. I think we've broken this down about it at every angle we can possibly think of. I think West Virginia wins the football game. Actually have them winning 31-27. I think this is closer than we think. Listen, again, I said it earlier, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but last week was fun. But that was 1 week. And so I do think we need to kind of semi-temper our expectations in terms of West Virginia coming out and winning like maybe an Arizona did against Colorado or a Utah did against Colorado. I don't anticipate this being a 52-7 or a 52-14. I think you and I would have a great episode 51 if that were to happen.
Yep.
I don't anticipate that. I think Colorado is – you're going to get a pretty good version of Colorado. You got a lot of unknowns, but I think you get a pretty good version. I'm just curious to see. I think this is a game where West Virginia can exploit the run game and they can perform there. I'm excited about Scotty Fox in another week. You just get more and more comfortable. As you mentioned, I think this is an opportunity for the defensive line to really get aggressive. So there's a lot to like here. But at the end of the day, I don't think that I can let one game last week, as much fun as it was, overshadow the previous X amount of weeks.
That's fair.
And so it's kind of like I got to see a little bit more, you know. I was telling somebody today, it was almost like a bag of Doritos, man. It was like, the first one was pretty good, and you were like, I really like to get another one, and then you just kind of keep going and going and going. Last week was enjoyable. This has probably been the best week we've had in a long time in terms of feeling pretty good about ourselves. But I can't let 1 week overshadow the previous X amount. And we could go all the way back to Pitt at home. And so I still think West Virginia gets it done. I actually anticipate a pretty nice crowd this weekend. Weather in Morgantown for early November is supposed to be really good, last I checked.
Yep.
And so 31-27, I think West Virginia gets it done this weekend.
I like it. Before I give my score prediction, I do plan on being at the game Saturday. I'm hoping to get there early enough to see if Warren Sapp kicks over our pylons and makes his freaking disabled coach. He's not disabled, but cancer survivor coach who has no freaking bladder and suffers from blood clots have to go around and pick up his pylons that he kicks over every week.
That's terrible. Terrible.
What a I don't even. I mean, how old's Warren Sapp? 50-some, 60 years old, 60-some years old?
I'd say at least 50s, you would think.
I mean, you think he'd be more mature than that, wouldn't you?
You would think.
And he's supposed to be leading young men. He's walking around listening to headphones like he's playing. Dude.
52.
Act like you're 52 and not, I was going to say 25, but not even 25, 15. Okay. But anyway, that just irks me, man. And Deion, there's a lot of things about Deion I don't like or agree with. But deep down, I think Deion Sanders is a really good dude.
Yeah.
And, you know, he like at his press conference, he spilled his water. He was like, I got to clean this up. I ain't going to make nobody else clean my mess up. Like, he's that kind of guy to me. And it just irks me that Warren Sapp does that. And I know it's nothing big. It's just pylons. But, man, just dumb.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. What purpose does it serve?
You'd expect more.
But anyway, my score prediction, close to yours, not exact. I've got West Virginia winning 35-24. We saw them put 45 up at home. I mean, on the road against Houston, who I think's better than Colorado. So my mind first was like, well, they should score that much. But I was like, well, wait a minute now. Like you said, 1 week doesn't make a trend. I still think they play good enough to win the game. I still think they're a better football team right now today than Colorado is. I think the crowd will be a factor. I still think they win, but I don't know that they put up 40. You know, and we got to remember too, 7 of that was due to a pick 6, right? So
it was.
So the offense technically only scored 38, I guess. But I'm going 35-24 West Virginia in this one.
I like it. Yeah, and you know what? You summed it up perfect. 1 week doesn't make a trend. And so a really good saying, because I can't let 1 week, as good as that was, and I hope it's a building block, and I hope it does become a trend. But I think it's really easy to just kind of set ourselves on last week and forego some of the debacles that preceded that. Now, West Virginia didn't beat TCU, but that's kind of where it started, right? Mm-hmm. And so and we opened the show by saying you can't follow up a road win at Houston with a home loss to Colorado if you are trying to create a program, you know. And I saw program building win thrown around a lot last week, and I don't disagree with that. I don't think you can follow it up with losing to a bad Colorado football
Which
team.
Goes to your earlier point that you made really early on in the show about the mindset and why Rich Rod was like, look, this is our expectation now. We can't go backwards, right?
Yeah.
He knows that. He understands that. And he knows that and we used to hear Bob Huggins say it all the time when they say, you know, he's like, yeah, but if we lose the next one, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right? Bob Huggins used to say that all the time. It applies here. It applies in every sport for that matter, but especially when you're in the middle of a rebuild and you're trying to, God, I don't want to use the word climb. When you're trying to build your program and ascend, we'll say ascend, you don't want to take a step back.
Yeah.
And in this case, it might even be, if you lose to Colorado at home, would that be your worst loss of the year outside of Ohio?
Well, yeah. I mean, it would have to be, right, considering that they put up a 50 spot given it to Utah and Arizona back-to-back weeks.
I mean, UCF was bad too, but it was at least on the road.
Yeah, it would.
I don't know. It would definitely be a bad loss if you lose the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's why I said at the very beginning, you can't follow up last week with the home loss this week, and I don't anticipate that to happen. However, I am curious to see, can West Virginia continue that momentum? Can they continue to spring forward? Because there is a lot to like. I mean, you know, you talked about, I mean, we finally got a resemblance of a run game in the second half of TCU and then last week. We finally are seeing Scotty Fox get more comfortable. We're finally seeing, the defense make some plays, and it is a little bit of a bend, don't break. But so yeah, I mean, we're finally getting back to the defensive line pressuring the quarterback again, and so there has been a lot to like the last 2 weeks. And so it would be really nice for West Virginia to get one more and build herself up a little momentum heading on the road.
Yep. All right, we're about to wrap up, but I want you to give me your quick 3-minute synopsis of West Virginia basketball's win over Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah, up and down, up and down. I think there was a lot to like, and I do think that there is some to be concerned about. I would say a lot to like. I'll break that down pretty quick. I think the team's going to play hard. I think Ross Hodge is going to get the best out of his players. It is worth reminding that West Virginia did not have Chance Moore, Jackson Fields. Those are two players that are going to play a key part in this basketball team. I thought Jasper Floyd, I texted you last night during the game and said, Coos, I've been telling you.
Ringing the Jasper Floyd bell for a while, yeah.
I've been ringing that bell. I just thought there was a reason why when a head coach takes over a new program and one of the first players he wants is his point guard, sign me up. He's big, he's physical, so there's a lot to like there. I don't anticipate Trayson Eaglestaff and Honor Huff to struggle that much again, so it's nice to get that out of the way. Some of the negatives, I do think that West Virginia, once again, is small. Outside of Obi Oha, you go down to DJ Thomas, which I will say plays bigger than there's no way he's 6'7". He's got to be 6'9". He just appears bigger to me. And again, I think Jackson Fields, Chance Moore, they're going to rely on them to rebound the basketball a little bit more, but they're small. Honor Huff is small. Amir Jenkins is small. I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about rebounding. I'm concerned about physicality. But I thought it was pretty much – listen, Mount St. Mary's is typically a good program, Coos, right? And so that was a good test. In fact, I think I'd rather have that contest last night than I would just playing somebody you beat 95-40. And so mixed bag, but about what I expected. I didn't expect Eaglestaff and Honor Huff to struggle the way they did, but – when you're scorers and when you're shooters, you're going to run into nights like that. And as you noted earlier, it gets the first game, and so you're going to maybe run into a situation where the lights come on and it gets a little big, and you're trying to overdo everything and you press a little bit too much. But I was excited, I was encouraged, and I think there was a lot to be happy about. But I do think, not to overreact, but I do think there are some concerns there. I'd also throw in real quick too, Brennan Lorian he's all over the place in a good way. Brought the ball up the floor after he stole the ball and had a point guard assist, a no look almost, some outside jumpers. I said early in the year he reminds me of like a Jonathan Holton, that he's just long, he's range, he's athletic, he can play outside.
I think he's Jonathan Holton with a better offensive game.
A little bit better offensive game.
Because Jonathan Holton's offensive game wasn't, he was known more for he was there for defense and rebounding primarily.
But developed a three-point shot.
He did later in his career. He did.
He developed that a little bit. He was pretty good and long and athletic, and especially defensively.
So you could say Jonathan Holton by the end of his career. That'd be a fair statement.
Yeah, I think so. And so I think there was a lot to like and a lot to be encouraged about. And again, West Virginia was missing two key components. But at the same time, I think there are some things that maybe be flags and concerns. I do worry about the physicality. I worry about the size. And I worry about rebounding as we get deep into the season.
Yep. Do you? Somebody told me in the comments under the video I did earlier about this that Mount St. Mary's was missing 5 of their players. Is that true?
They were missing 5. They were missing 5 players. One of which, and I don't have the name.
I somehow missed that in the broadcast. I was multitasking, I guess.
One of which was extremely productive, or they were anticipating production out of. I don't think the other 4 as much.
Okay.
But again, West Virginia, that kind of balanced itself out because West Virginia was missing
two guys who will likely be big-time contributors, I would imagine.
Right.
with Fields and
more.
I
Yeah.
mean, Fields is likely going to be your backup center essentially. I would imagine once he's back.
Yeah.
And 100%, which may not be to the start of Big 12 play, but but and Chance Moore, I think, might end up being one of the top 3 to 4 players on this basketball team by the end of the year, if not higher.
Yeah.
I think he's really good. But like I said, and I'll finish with this. Like I said in the video I did earlier, for those of you who want to see it, it's the one that has Jasper Floyd on the thumbnail. If you want to catch just a basketball conversation of the video, it was a 3-parter. There's a reason the 2 guys who played the best are the 2 guys who've already played for Ross Hodge before.
Yeah.
They looked comfortable. They knew what to do. They didn't have to think. Everybody else looked like they were thinking out there. And you cannot think in the middle of a basketball game. You have to react.
Yeah.
The other players on that team are still in reaction phase.
They are.
I mean, I'm sorry, still in the thinking phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
It hasn't clicked yet. It will click eventually. They get to play 3 games this week, if I'm not mistaken. Right? They got another game
Thursday and Sunday.
Yeah. So they got 2 more games in the next week.
Yeah.
Maybe 3. Anyway, 2 or 3 games in the next several days. It's going to happen fast. So let's be patient. I don't want to overreact either way. It's first game jitters, new game, or new staff, new players. Just only the first actual game against Division I competition outside of the closed door scrimmage. But the first one actually meant something, right? So
and look, these guys are trying to prove their worth,
correct,
to the fans, to the coaches, and so it wouldn't surprise me in the next game or 2 to see Huff or Eagle Staff put up 30. Maybe they just needed to get that out of their system, and so for me, and I was asked about that earlier today, obviously off camera, and my feeling on it really just summed up was I walked away from it pretty much expected what I got. It was a mixed bag. And again, Mount St. Mary's, let's not forget, that's a pretty good basketball program they're running over there too.
Mm-hmm.
They're always competitive. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I expected. Listen, I didn't anticipate West Virginia win by 40. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time. You wrapped it up perfectly. It's no surprise that the 2 best players on the floor knew what they were doing.
Now those guys are pretty good players anyway. But they just looked comfortable out there.
They looked very comfortable, and as much as I have beaten the Jasper Floyd drum, I didn't anticipate that scoring effort last night.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I think that tied a career high, and so that's not necessarily been his forte. However, if you want to buy in a little bit, I was surprised a little bit at his physicality. I mean, he's got some thickness on him, and so I think he will translate well to the Big 12 in terms of those that are matched up with him, and being a left-hander never hurts. So some to like, some concerns. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think we just need to start getting point guards whose names start with J at West Virginia. I think we'll be okay.
Yeah,
Jawan, Jordan,
Jasper,
which Jordan, maybe he didn't live up to expectation, but now Miles McBride was squeezed in there too in between all those guys, but and he's pretty darn good in his own right.
He
starting
is.
For the New York Knicks. I think you're doing okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just a funny little nugget I thought I'd throw in there.
So next week when we do this and West Virginia has the opportunity to play a couple more games, I think we'll get a little bit better idea of where things stand.
Now, if Eagle Staff and Huff are still not making threes and they're still shooting 65% from the line and they're still getting out rebounded every game, this time next week I might be more concerned.
Yeah,
because the competition they're going to play is probably not going to be outside of the Pitt game next Thursday night. The 2 games in between are probably not even as good as Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right, man. We're going to call it a day. This is a long one, man.
Yeah.
Almost an hour and 15.
Well, I told you earlier, when you win a football game, you can go
that's right.
Keep talking.
Yeah, that's right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, I don't know how in the world you sit and look at me and him for an hour and 15 minutes. God bless you if you did. But
Yes.
we we appreciate it out of the way. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for getting me over 10,000 subscribers. I
Yeah.
totally forgot to mention that. Couldn't do it without you. So share it with you. Continue to share us out, though. We're not done. We're going to continue on the road to 20K now. Let's try to get there by next week. No, I'm kidding. But we're going for 20K next. So share, hit the hype button, hit the like button, comment, all that. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Go check us out at wvsportschat.com for your written content on basketball, women's basketball, football, baseball. We got it all over there. So check us out. And check us out on Facebook at wvsportschat.com, on X at wvsportschat. Look us up. And thanks to the Rogue Sports Network as well for allowing me to be part of their family. Thanks again to Appalachia Digital. God bless you. Q Country Roads.